Hi, I'm Peter Brusso for seniorscams.com, seniorscamspodcast.com. I'm here with co-host Richard Bentley. Vic, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, Peter. Just Sunday afternoon and getting caught up on things. So it's been a good day.
Well, you can't see me. I sent you a picture, but I'm in my red Hawaiian shirt here because we're going to be talking about a travel scam today. And
Well,
do you want to take it off for one story, and then I'll come back and do the travel scam, and then we can swing back over to another story for you?
sure. I have some information here from an FBI website, and it's fraud that targets senior scams. And there's a list of things that they say that make seniors vulnerable to scam artists. And I'm just going to read a couple of them now, and maybe we can come back and get some later. But the first one is senior citizens are most likely to have a nest egg, to own their own home, and or have an excellent credit, all which makes them an attractive to con artists. The second is people who grew up in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s were generally raised to be polite and trusting. Con artists exploit these traits, knowing that it's difficult or impossible for these individuals to say no or just to hang up the telephone. And I find that to be very accurate, at least with myself. I was raised that you're polite to everybody and you're not rude to anyone, and I can understand that. Okay, one more is older Americans are less likely to report a fraud because they don't know who to report it to, and are too ashamed at having been scammed or don't know they have been scammed. Elderly victims may not report crimes, for example, because they are concerned their relatives may think the victim is no longer have the mental capacity to take care of themselves and their own financial needs. So those are three. There's a few more we can come back to, but I think as we're going through these podcasts and then the scams, you wonder, why do elderly people get picked on? And I think there's three very good reasons. There's a couple more, and maybe we can do them after we talk about the travel scam, and go from there. I have some other ones. There's one I had never heard of before, and it's tips for avoiding fraudulent anti-aging products. That's a new one on me.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about that myself. That's interesting because we know somebody with an anti-aging product, and
yes, that's right.
And the fact that he may be stuck in a scam mode, that might not be good.
No. So. The first tip is, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not true. We've said that many a times on our things, right? Research your product thoroughly before buying it. Call the Better Business Bureau to find out if other people have complained about the product. Beware of a product that claims to cure a wide variety of illnesses, particularly serious ones that don't appear to be related. Be careful of products that are marked as having no side effects. Always consult your doctor before taking any dietary or nutritional supplements. I think that's a good advice for anybody. And don't be afraid to ask questions about the product. Find out exactly what it should and should not do for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the highlights of it. I think I've noticed just a tremendous amount of anti-aging products over the last year. Like I said, we know somebody who has a business of that. Actually, know a couple of people that have it. I've seen ads for it. I just saw, I didn't watch the whole thing, it's a 20-minute infomercial on TV, and how this product's going to make you look 20 years younger. And all of a sudden, it just seems like there's a tremendous amount of anti-aging products, which makes sense as the population is getting older. So I think you should be really careful if someone comes and says, this product is going to take 20 years off your face and you're going to look great and the whole thing. Mother Nature doesn't normally work that way, and I think you just gotta be careful before you get involved with anything.
Yeah, I agree. So. Hey, by the way, Dick, move your mic up a little bit. Your cord is rubbing against it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. That's okay. Your cord was rubbing
Okay.
against that. Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
the and that's got to be tough because you think of our friend that we know. His name is Jim, and Jim
Yeah.
has got an anti-aging cream or spray that he
Yeah.
claims to have has found a new energy source and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I mean, clearly it works if you look at him. And any of the historical pieces, clearly the stuff works. He
Yeah.
certainly doesn't need to be claiming finding a new energy, which actually could draw people away from it. I think from a marketing
Yeah.
standpoint.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there is an awful lot out there. Wanurium has a good product and it actually works pretty well too. But there's obviously a lot of these. Weight loss used to be the big one. Every 3 months
Yeah.
was a new weight loss product revolutionizing.
Yeah.
And what they do is they just keep cycling through different things that don't work and getting people that bought the stuff before to buy them again in hopes that they'll lose weight,
Yeah.
as opposed to
Yeah.
just go ahead and take the bull by the horns and get on a diet, or figure out what you want to do about that.
That's right.
But let
That's
me,
right. I think.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I think with again the population aging the way it is, health products, beauty products, weight loss products, they're all. I mean, they're just coming out of the woodworks, and and just to give you a little plug, you've lost over 20 something pounds without any of these products, and you've done it the old-fashioned way by adjusting your diet, adjusting your intake, and it's working. So I think my advice is when you truly want to lose it, do it that way.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, my diet's really an interesting diet, but and it's a no-fat diet basically is what it is. But
Right.
you're never hungry.
Yeah.
You can eat as much as you want. You just have to
Yeah.
find out the foods you can eat, and it isn't all just rabbit
Yeah.
food either. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm looking a little thinner. I'm threatening to shave
Yeah.
off my beard and look really crazy. But hey, one thing. Let me go over here and show the listeners here. This is a page that we got from our friend in one of our business groups. Basically sent this over about travel advice and holiday villa fraud. Which, by the way, when you get to the bottom line, it's really good to have people like Charles Greenberg, our travel agent buddy, who will not put you in a situation like this. But it says here, um, people are booking, essentially, there's a greater risk of fraud when you book directly with an owner. Nearly 30% of the holiday fraud victims in 2013 were fooled by a fraudulent advertisement of holiday villas and apartments, according to a report compiled by the City of London Police National blah, 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 blah. Fortunately, there are some simple ways to protect yourself against this fraud. One is to check how long the villa has been advertised. Usually there's a joining date of the advertiser is given on the website, so you can see that. Number two, check the reviews from other renters, either on the site or looking through TripAdvisor is a possibility. So, they're saying do your homework about this place. And we'll come back. I think your daughter was taken by this, and that'll be a good story. Use
Yeah.
Google Maps to locate the villa to make sure it really is there. Maybe even use a street view to see it. Now, as I understand, most of these people are picking stuff that really do exist, so it gives you the feeling that, yeah, okay, it's there. It's open for rental by us, but in fact it isn't. And it says it's all too easier for fraudsters to list villas that they don't own, which is what I said. Speak to the owners by the phone is what you're after, and of course that can be fooled. You can be fooled by that as well. But check the details on the internet, everything you can about them, any complaints, that kind of stuff. Use your judgment. If there's something about the website, the property description, or the owners that you aren't happy about, if the price seems too good to be true, Dick, what do you think? Don't book, right?
Probably right. Yep.
Yeah, one of our key things to talk about.
Yeah.
They don't book it, right? And then
Yeah,
Payne
right.
says number 7 is to be a stickler about the paperwork. Do not send money without receiving and checking that you are happy with the written contract. Be wary of security deposits. Blah 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 blah. 8, when paying the deposit and balance, always avoid wire money transfer companies like Western Union, which are untraceable. Credit card payments are the safest. PayPal may provide some protection if your account is linked to your credit card, such as Visa and stuff. PayPal's really good about that stuff too. As long as you don't load your PayPal account with a bunch of money to be debited towards a card for a villa. So, and then number 9, check on the property very carefully upon arrival. Ideally with the company or the owner or managers, alert them to take a photograph of any damage, security deposits, all that kind of good stuff. So now let me swing back over to seeing you again and me again. So your daughter fell victim to this. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, sure. About I think it was around 4 or 5 years ago. Her and I think 2 or 3 other families wanted to rent a house, or I won't call it a villa, but it was a sizable home in the Hamptons in Long Island. She lives in Connecticut. So they were going to go over for a week's vacation in August to the Hamptons. And I'm not sure how they came across this guy, but they found the place. The pictures online looked good. The price was reasonable for the Hamptons. There was no tip-off because the price was such a great deal or anything. Mm-hmm. And it showed had online pictures of it. It looked great, and so they sent a deposit, and then the contracts, which is typical, at least back in New England, if you go to Cape Cod or whatever, a week before or a month before you're going, you got to send like 20% of the total or something of that nature. Yeah. Well, she did, and then they were getting ready to go like the week before, and the person they had rented from called them and said the house is not available. And said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "What do you mean it's not available?" I said, "Well, the people that were renting it have decided to stay for a week longer, so they won't have that house, and I'm going to try and get you something else." Well, to make a long story short, they did a lot of investigation, and they did get a hold of the actual owner of the house, and it turns out this person that rented it has no right to rent it, had actually done it before. And what he does is he'll either try one or two things. He'll try to give you back your deposit or your money spent, or he'll offer you a much less accommodations for the same money. So he's making he's trying to bait and switch you, I guess is a good way of saying it. But he wasn't gonna give the money back. But one of the people going happened to be a criminal lawyer, and he took care of it. And I guess they got local authorities involved, but they got their money back. But they didn't get their vacation that they wanted. And they had all the pain and anguish and everything that went through it just by doing what Charlie said don't do.
Right.
Don't rent from the non certified real estate travel agent or broker or a real estate office or something. Yeah. So they ended up getting their money back, and they ended up with staying home for their vacation instead of going over there.
I'll put Charlie's shameless plug in here too. I'll put his name and telephone number. Currently, I think he's en route to Hawaii, the rat. And
oh wow!
Yeah, no kidding. I could badmouth him while he's away, but he's a great guy.
Yeah, that's right. He is.
He was a host or a guest on our show, and based on that, not to say much about it yet, but I want to do a whole travel show featuring Charlie. He was that powerful when he was on. And so you and I'll maybe be doing that with him and see what we do with that. Sure. But that'll be fun. Yeah, so Charlie would have been the perfect person, or a Charlie-like person, to find you a good deal that he could stand up behind that wouldn't have these problems,
Right.
Because clearly there's got to be travel agents in that area that know the scams and know what isn't a scam,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And as Charlie has pointed out many times to us, generally it doesn't cost you more to book through a travel agent.
Right.
It generally, in some cases, it may cost you less because he negotiates deals that we couldn't get.
Correct. He gives you stuff you couldn't get at all. I guess
Right.
the famed question is, how much is it going to cost you? Well, how much is it going to cost you if you
Yeah.
do use them, or how much is it going to cost you if you
Right.
don't use them? And
No,
it's the
that's
don't
right.
use them part is the scary one. I mean,
That's right.
all the time I
Yeah.
do websites for people, they always ask,
Yeah.
well, how much is this going to cost? And I always stop and ask,
Yeah.
I got to clarify that question. What's it going to cost you if you do it, or what's it going to cost you if you don't do it? That's the
Right.
real question. If you don't
Yep.
change, if you don't use the appropriate stuff, what's that going to cost you? So anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fun stuff. So
Yeah.
let's go back to your FBI stuff for a second. What else you got there?
Okay. A couple more reasons why the senior population is vulnerable is when an elderly victim does report the crime, they often make poor witnesses. Con artists know the effects of age on memory, and they're counting on elderly victims not being able to supply enough detailed information to investigators. In addition, the victim's realization that they have been swindled may take weeks, or more likely months, after contact with the fraudster. This extended time frame makes it even more difficult to remember the details from the events. You know, as a really rapidly advancing senior, I understand what you're saying about the memory. I ended up writing a lot more things down than I used to. So
What were we just talking about, Dick?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
practicing, of course.
and yeah, you're still a pup yet, but
Oh,
you're getting there.
Jesus.
And then the last one that they bullet point here is senior citizens are more interested in success. And let me start over again. Senior citizens are more interested in and susceptible to products promising increased cognitive function, fertility, physical conditioning, and anti-cancer properties, and so on. In a country where new cures and vaccinations for all diseases have given every American hope for a long and fruitful life, it is not so unbelievable that con artists can produce products that they say can do that. And that goes to what we were talking about earlier with the health, the diet, all those types of things. So you can see that, these con artists not only are great at pitching their product to make it sound believable, but they've taken this whole thing to another level of identifying a certain demographic that is more vulnerable because maybe of the way they were brought up, and less likely to call the authorities because they don't know who to call. They may be too embarrassed to call. And the bottom line is they may not even know what to say. So they've taken this whole thing to a new level and put together a profile of who they can best con.
Yeah, it looks like the old and the young are the two opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right.
And get us that way. But it is interesting. I mean, we notice a lot because you and I do a lot of business and stuff out there. But younger people don't have a work ethic. They also have they tend not to believe people. Where we, on the other hand, I think have a reasonably good work ethic, and we tend to trust people until there's a reason for us not to trust them. It's a generational thing.
That's absolutely right. I mean, like I said, my upbringing was such that you always were polite. You never were rude. You yes sir, no sir, and and basically you could trust people in those days. I mean, when we were kids or through high school, even my first maybe 4 or 5 years of marriage, even more. I mean, you never thought of people trying to scam you, and cheat you and steal your identity. Obviously technology wasn't such a thing that it made it easy to do it, but we just weren't growing up in that. And probably till maybe in the last 15 years or so of my life has it become what it is, and to the degree it is. So I think we're vulnerable. I forget the exact circumstances, but I got an email the other day, and it just sounded legitimate, and I almost opened it up, And I said, "Oh, what are you doing here? You don't know this
Yeah.
person." I forget exactly what it was. It was,
Oh boy.
oh God, what I have to. I should have brought that example, but they've gotten to the point where I think because they can tell where you go online. Everybody seems to be able to track where everybody else is going, and they start sending emails with titles from either the bank you're doing business with, or you site you visited. It was Amazon.com. That's what it was, and I use Amazon daily. It seems like, and I got this email from Amazon where they wanted to ask some questions or something, and so I Amazon and I just about got ready to open. I said, wait a minute, there's no logo. Amazon doesn't come through, my junk mailbox. When they want something, it's always through their site. And so I caught myself. I almost opened it up.
Yeah, well, it's
So
easy enough to do.
yeah,
Denise the other day was saying that she had visited one of the prepper sites, and all of a sudden, in her Facebook feed, she's getting ads from that prepper site. So how did
mhm,
that happen?
yeah,
We're not sure, but
no,
clearly
no,
there must have been some tracking cookie that Facebook maybe looked
yeah,
at where you've been,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
used that tracking cookie to
yeah.
slide in ads of like kind.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So they're
yeah,
looking in your browser cache, and they're looking in your
yeah,
cookie cache, and
yeah,
they shouldn't be
yeah.
doing that stuff, but they do
No,
anyway. But I mean,
they do. I mean,
I have myself
you do.
listed as single on Facebook, and of course, all I have is pretty
Yeah.
large-breasted women in the local area who are dying to meet me ads. My God, just
Yeah.
crazy. If I,
Yeah.
I don't know
Oh,
what
it
would
is.
happen if I said I'm married. I wonder what they would
Yeah.
track me with then.
Mhm.
You know,
Peter,
but
nowadays you never know. You
yeah,
never know.
you really,
I mean,
really
it's
do
it's
not know.
it's absolutely crazy. I was on my iPhone the other day searching for something my wife had asked me to look up, and I hit a thing, and I went from searching this cooking recipe to a whole list of things about sex with this one, and I didn't hit a button. I mean, I don't know. I
Well,
showed
did
the
it
wife.
have to
I
do
don't,
with
I don't.
food by any chance? Sex with
No,
food? Not
no.
even have to.
It's just a
Well, hell,
totally different thing.
that was not even
Totally
worthwhile
different
then.
thing. No, no.
Not even.
But we
Uh,
digress, I guess.
yes,
Yeah.
boy, do we
But
ever.
it's just the world that we're living in now is with the technology, and like you said, you really you can't get on a computer and do any kind of web search with any expectation of privacy,
Right.
because it's just wherever you're doing, wherever you're going, someone's tracking it. So
There are a number of websites you can go to, anonymous.com, I think, where you can actually go through their portal, and they always
mhm.
switch your IP address, and so you can surf clandestine, but you have to work at it.
Is that right?
Yeah, you have to work at
Yeah,
it. You can go in
yeah,
there, and I think another one is I hate to cuss on the air here, but hidemyass.com is another one of those.
oh,
Hidemyass.com.
well,
A shameless plug for them. They don't give us any money, but
yeah, no,
yeah.
yeah,
So anyway, you do have to be so careful. But I think with the
mm,
travel stuff, one super duper level of security is that travel agent typically.
yes,
That on the scam side of life, and I don't know why the travel scams have interested me so much. I guess because you're even more vulnerable than usual because you're in a foreign country. It's like
yeah,
you can be scammed at your house, and you can turn off the internet, and you can turn the phone off or whatever, close and lock the door. But
yeah,
boy, if you get scammed overseas, there's not much help for you. And that's one of the
no,
things we
no,
talked to Charles about, Charles Greenberg,
yeah,
another shameless plug. But
yeah,
Charlie said, yeah, you call back or email him, and he'll jump on that and get it all taken care of. Period.
right,
You
right,
know, he was
absolutely, yeah,
he was telling about one person who went on a river cruise and flew into Lisbon to get on the boat, and something happened. The river was too low, and so they were going to do the same tour but with a bus. Well, that's not the same thing at all. That was a bait
no,
and switch. Of course, I'm sure they were trying to
yeah,
make the best of a bad
yeah,
situation, but Charlie got them right out of there
uh,
and got their money back. You know,
yeah,
So that's a good thing.
No, I think if you dealing with a reputable travel agent, you minimize your risk of getting scammed, and if you do, you have a resource to call to get help.
Hey, now on that
And
same
those
note,
are
if you
valuable.
get scammed like that and you have Legal Shield, will they come to bear? Will they help you?
Yes, yeah. I mean, they uh, if it's a case of like the river cruise people
Right.
trying to bait and switch you, yeah, you could call your attorney and they would intercede on your behalf. Yes,
And they can do that
if it's
overseas? They can do that overseas?
Peter, that I'm not sure. I would kind of doubt that, to be very honest with you.
Well, the fact
But
that they're doing
I'll
business
tell
in
you,
the
I'll check
U.S.,
on it.
yeah, the fact that they're
Yeah,
doing business in the U.S. probably gives them a legal arm overseas, if you know what I mean.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, if you booked it through a U.S. travel agent, then they definitely would
And that's
have.
what this was. They
They
booked
could
it
do
through
that. Yeah,
Charlie,
yeah,
not that he
right.
was not going to
Yeah,
help them, but I mean, there
right,
might be travel agents
right.
out there that, well,
Yeah,
they don't want to get the money back,
yeah, right.
and they might not help. But I don't know
Yeah,
who they would be. I haven't
yeah,
never met any. I typically, when I have traveled in the past, I always book through a travel agent, tell them exactly what I want,
yeah,
what I don't want, and they always come up with
mhm,
options, and I've never been
yeah,
disappointed, you know,
yeah. No, no.
ever.
I've always had good luck with travel agents. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Yeah,
your web guy, you know. Hey, you have
yeah,
good results with us web dudes, but if you try to do it yourself, it
yeah.
can get to be hideous, if not worse. If not
real,
worse.
real quickly.
Yeah, that's right. A shameless
Yeah,
plug for
yeah,
my company
yeah.
now too.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
well, good. All right. Anything else you want to say before we bring this to a close?
No, I think I would just mention the FBI website. It's a long one, but it might be worth people writing down because there's a lot of good information. It's fbi.gov/scams dash safety slash fraud slash.
Well, you can send it
What's
to me,
that?
Dick. If
Yeah,
you'll send it to me,
yeah,
then I'll put it up on the screen for everybody to see. That's the
yeah.
easy way to do
I'll do
that.
that. I just
Plus, I
lost
can put a
that
link.
last word.
Yeah, plus I can put a
Yeah.
link in the show notes so
Okay.
they can just click and go
Yeah.
right there. Yeah,
All right.
I've
Yeah.
got the scams or the FBI site up on the seniorscamspodcast.com. So if
Oh,
they
you
want,
do?
yeah, if they
Okay.
want to look in the links back
Yeah.
there, they'll find
Yeah.
it there. But I'll try to
Yeah.
remember. Matter of fact, I better make myself a note here to add that.
Right.
And FBI link. Okay. In podcast. Okay. And then you can just type that into me or whatever you want to do
Right.
and get it
Okay.
over to me, and I'll do that when I produce this podcast.
All
All right,
righty.
Dick. Well, hey, thanks. Have a good day. Another good senior podcast in the can here, and
Right.
we'll talk on senior scams again next week.
All righty. You have a good evening, Peter.
All right, Dick. Thank you. Now, good night.
Yep. Bye.